Hello, my name is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner newspaper to give you the coronavirus update for this Sunday afternoon. I guess kind of evening at this point. Starting first with the figures, looking at Wyoming's numbers as provided by the Department of Health. We have 566 lab-confirmed cases right now. That includes 16 in Sweetwater County. When it comes to probable cases, that number now sits at 188, and that also includes 7 in Sweetwater County. Now recoveries, the good news is that overall that number sits at 498 people, including 18 in Sweetwater County. Over the weekend, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention stressed that their numbers are tentative, and that they'll be a little bit more, expect them to be revised on Monday. But right now, our figures for the 17th say that we have 1,467,065 cases, which is an increase of 31,967 compared to yesterday. Total deaths now sits at 88,709, which is 1,394 people more than yesterday. Worldwide figures, as provided by Johns Hopkins University, we have 4,710,683 total reported, along with 315,023 people for the total global deaths. And recoveries now sits at 1,733,888. Now, hopefully you're like me and you've had a pretty easygoing weekend. I'm wearing my, they're ripped, been patched multiple times, but they're comfortable clothes. And I've been thinking a little bit this weekend about the fact how we're getting close to the end of the school year around here. It's kind of interesting, personally. I find that on Monday, we're going to have Western Wyoming Community College partially reopening the students who have to do the hands-on lab type portion of their instruction. Later that day, at 7 p.m., we're going to have the virtual graduation for the Rock Springs High School class of 2020. There are some places where the signs we have are mixed. Road signs are like one of those magic 8 balls, shake it, check again later, we're not sure right now, even for just a few weeks out. Off the record, we've been talking to a lot of people about summer events, and we're looking forward to being able to reveal more of those details when event organizers have a bit more time and planning and just watching things pass under their belts before they have to make certain hard decisions, or one way or another, these calls aren't hard. But just thinking about the wrap-up of the school year, I was thinking of a story I like to tell about a minor meltdown I had my junior year in college. I was head of the class, not even 25 yards from the dorm, and bumped into an acquaintance. And I don't know his name. Maybe Tyler. He was a saxophone player. We were both in the marching Mizzou band at the University of Missouri in Columbia. And so for like 3 years we'd overlapped. I was a trumpet player. He was saxophone. So we didn't hang out a lot directly. We were often within the same group of people. And we'd also both done pep bands, so we kind of knew of each other, and we just kind of had that basic bumped into each other on the sidewalk, and I'd been having a horrible day, and he said something that I've heard lots of people ask: "How are you doing?" And a lot of the time when I'm asked that question, I wave it off. Sometimes it's because I'm in a hurry. Sometimes it's the, I don't want to talk to you about this. Sometimes it's the, I'm in pain and I don't wish to share that with you. I might be gummed up inside, and I don't know how to handle with it, and I don't know how I'm supposed to handle it with another person. But for whatever moment, for all the times where I'm going, like, oh, I'm doing okay, are you? Yeah. He asked me, how you doing? And I told him. And it just came out in a rush, like, I got this paper I can't quite get together, and it's finals weeks, and in my mind's eye, the timeline screwed up. I assume I was talking quickly, and it didn't last near as long as what I would think it would. I do remember that it had gone on long enough. My verbal volcano had lasted to the point where I did notice a panicked look in his eyes, and he was kind of doing that. I mean, we were kind of keeping locked eyes, but he was still kind of checking the periffs, and I recognized that he didn't mean to unleash that. He was just doing that social grace, hey, how are you? Didn't really mean it. And most of the time we never call each other on that bluff, but I did that day. And I recognized that he got more than what he expected. And I kept talking because it was one of the most cathartic, even in my memory, I still have this feeling of the burden coming off as I was just acknowledging it. Not to somebody who could do anything about it, not to somebody who was even interested in hearing what I had to say, but just vocalizing my stress and my concerns and my panic and all those concerns. Like even my memory, when I get to that point, I still smile to this day. And I let him go after about another minute or so. It probably not even that longer. To my memory, he never asked me how I was doing ever again. I don't know whether that was because he decided to be a little bit more careful with his word choice and when he approached people, or whether I just got scratched off a list one day. And I can also think of other times when, especially in school, where things were going crazy, and my friends noticed that something's not quite right with Caleb. And some of my blunter friends would be point blank asking me, like, tell me what's wrong. And always, whenever I've been asked that question, my first response is, nothing is wrong. Even when there's something wrong, I always say, nothing is wrong. And there's some who just notice the cues, and they're waiting for a moment later. And given enough time, if I know a person well enough, I'll eventually tell you what's going on in my head. And there's been a couple times where I was headed down self-destructive, self-isolating paths that the people around me, whether they were close, whether they meant to, they helped me disrupt that circuit. And I was able to get to healthier thinking, better choice making because of their intervention. And I've spent part of my time this weekend thinking about how in still a society right now where we're keeping our distance, where we're still stressed that as much as possible, try to limit your trips to only what's essential. There are more options now. And we're encouraged to be out there with masks, and we're still encouraged to be keeping that distance. And I'm just thinking that if I would have had these episodes back then, when my friends stepped in, or knew to step in because I see that, they would notice now if they were keeping the allotted distance between us. Or I had a mask that I don't have a great poker face. I think we've kind of established by now that I wear my emotions right here. But with that partially obstructed, would they have caught on as quickly? Would I have done something back then when I wasn't as practiced with making healthy choices when facing stress and angst and the creepy crawlies that are on the inside of the skull? I don't have a great answer. It is one of those unponderables. There's no way for us to just go back in time and reset these things. And I wouldn't want to wish this type of pandemic on anybody in any circumstances. But it does have me thinking about the fact that I need to be doing more to reach out to people. Even while we're keeping our distance, I still need to be keeping my eyes open. And that's asking a lot on a population that we've all had to stretch ourselves. We've all had to go beyond what we are comfortable doing, what we want to do in a lot of circumstances. And asking us to keep doing all these extra things, like I said, wearing the mask. Getting back from the store. Did you wash your hands? No. You need to, you're supposed to, I know you went through the drive-thru. I know there's a certain fast food has a very limited window with that optimal temperature, optimal taste, and too long and it congeals and blah. But did you wash your hands? Were you wearing gloves when you're going through the drive-thru? All these extra expectations are draining, and are having a continual effect on us. I understand why a lot of polls show that we're exhausted when it comes to these social distancing, safe distancing suggestions that we know are for the benefit of others, and we get that in return when others act that way. And asking somebody to do something else, and also be watching out for your friends, and call them if you haven't seen them in a while. There are people I haven't seen in months that I'm looking at this camera right now going that I owe them a call. Some of them, I owe them a text message. Some of them, I owe them a card. We all have different degrees and different relationships, and just be thinking of the people in your life, especially the ones that you know are going through an especially hard time. And we're all going through a hard time. But be watching for things that just make you go, oh, I wonder if I should follow up that person, just in case. Right now, displaying sensitivity toward others is going to be that much more important as we go forward, and we're dealing with something that's familiar but still different than what's come before. And having patience and kindness are the type of things that I'd encourage people to be sharing in whatever abundance that you can. And if you need some, ask for it, because we're not always going to know, especially if we're not seeing each other in the office. We're not seeing each other in the halls. We're on Zoom, but we've got our avatar. So that's just where I'm coming from this week. Just thinking about a time when somebody asked me how I was doing on a day when I really, really needed somebody to ask me that question so I could tell them. And multiple times a day throughout this world, people have a moment like that. And having been on one end of that, let me tell you that if you have that person that's listening to you, who's available, it is the most freeing, burden-lifting moments that you can have. It didn't make the bad stuff go away. I still had those tests. I still had those papers. But for a moment, I was sharing the burden with somebody else, whether they wanted to or not. Just having that brief shake it off moment. Okay, let's ready to move on. If you can do that for somebody today, yeah, you'll never see a big movie about that, but you'll be their hero. So look for opportunities to be somebody's hero today or tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, I hope you have a good one and a safe one. This is Caleb Smith with the Rocket Miner. Good day.